In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate my soldering technique. I previously loaded a video on YouTube showing that I'm having a lot of difficulties with my Digitrax DCC system. I have a brand new Athearn Genesis GP9. I can't get it to run quite right. You can look at my other videos and you can see that it's not working right. I have eliminated that it is the locomotive that's causing the issues. I took it over to FT Lot's layout. Check him out on YouTube, FT Lot. Took it over to his layout. Thing runs smooth, so I've eliminated the locomotive as a cause of the issue. So now I'm thinking it's either an issue with my soldering technique, which I'm going to show for you today, and I'd like some feedback on that, or I actually have an issue with my Digitrax. So what I'm going to do, I have some brand new Atlas nickel silver code 100 track. I'm going to solder a couple feeders to it, and I'm going to directly hook those feeders up to rail A and rail B in my DCS 100, and I'm going to see if it'll replicate the same issues that I'm having on my layout. So my equipment here, I have a Weller soldering iron, brand new, keeps the tip tinned, nice and clean. Radio Shack, flux, have the Radio Shack tip and cleaner and tinner. And through another video on YouTube, people seem to be using this Radio Shack. It's basically 0.015 inch diameter silver bearing electrical solder. I also have burnishing tool. Even though this is brand new track, I'm going to show you what I go through to make sure that the rails are clean that I'm soldering. I have my wire clippers. I've already got a couple feeder wires already cut. I do have, you can't see it, I have some Q-tips with some rubbing alcohol to make sure things are clean. So here we go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my technique for tinning the wire. So I'm just going to strip off a little bit here. I'm only going to do one end for right now. So I stripped off just a little bit from the tip. Okay. So now that I have those cleaned off, I'm going to set this up here for right now. So I usually just take an alligator clip, and it just sort of helps keep the wire in place while I'm tinning it. Open up my flux. I'm just going to dab just a little bit of flux on here. Make sure my tip is nice and clean. So what I've been doing is I've just been, after I flux it, I just touch the tip to it and basically make sure that the flux gets burned off the wire. And then I take my solder I've just been putting just a little bit of solder on the wire. Not sure how well you can see that, but basically I've got my wire with a little bit of solder on it. I'm going to do that with my other rail, put my alligator clip, just dab just a tiny bit of flux on there. burn that off. And I'm going to take my solder and just put just a teeny bit on the wire. Okay, again, you can see that it's just a little bit of solder on the wire. So now I want to open up my track. So brand new piece of nickel silver, it's nice and shiny. How I've been doing it, I take this as just a little fiberglass burnishing tool. I'm going to put this right in the middle here. Even though this is brand new, I'll make sure there's nothing on from the factory. And I always use the nail hole in the middle, so that's my landmark, so I know where I'm going. Make sure both sides are clean. Have a Q-tip, just a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Again, just making sure that this is nice and clean, because I know that can cause an issue. So I'm going to let that evaporate for a few seconds. So the other thing that I've been doing is I take a pair of needle nose, which I have to grab here. So I've basically just been taking my needle nose. I just make a 90-degree angle with the wire so I can drop it through the hole in the layout to get it down to the bus line. So I'm going to do that for both of these. Okay. Now my rail should be nice and evaporated by now, so I've been taking, just again with a Q-tip, or I'm sorry, a toothpick, just putting a tiny bit of flux on the rails. And then, just because I usually do this on my layout, I only have two hands. You have just a real small clamp here to hold my rail in place while I solder. So I'm just going to drop this in, get that nice and tight. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this soldering technique, but basically all I do, take my feeder, put it right on the flux, take my soldering iron, basically just run it over where the flux was. And again, I don't know how well you can see this, but I have a nice shiny solder. It's nice and solid on there. So I'm going to flip this over, being careful with that other wire that I just soldered on. Again, I have my 90-degree angle. I'm going to drop this on here. Take my soldering iron and basically just touch it to fuse it together. Again, not sure how well you can see this, but I have a nice, shiny, solid solder on that wire. So I've got my two feeders connected to a brand new piece of nickel silver rail. I'm going to stop the video, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 or 4 pieces together here Again, this is brand new nickel silver track. I have brand new rail joiners I'm going to use. I'm not going to solder any more feeders. I'm not going to solder the rail joiners together. So I'm going to connect probably 3 pieces of track here, and then I'm going to move the video down below and I'm going to show you how I hook it up to my DCS 100.